Welcome to the Macdownunder Podcast for all Australian Apple computer enthusiasts and collectors. Welcome to episode 22 of the Macdownunder Podcast. I'm Justin, and thanks to everyone that's been tuning in, leaving comments and likes and subscribing so far for the 21 episodes. We really appreciate it, and it certainly helps us, it gives us some motivation to keep going, and it certainly helps us fine-tune what we do in the future. Special thanks to Josh from Josh's Mac Museum for co-hosting last week's episode at short notice. But what a great chat to have about the colours of iPods, because I certainly don't have them. I don't think, we'll talk to Matt in a minute, but I don't think Matt's got them either, or not out and about. So it was great to have Josh in and to do that. Continuing today, though, we're going to talk about Apple speakers. So continuing the music theme. And so whilst it was great to have Josh last week, I'm very pleased to welcome back Matthew into the co-host chair. Welcome back, Matthew. What have you been up to since we saw you last?
G'day, JD. G'day, everyone. Thank you. Great to be back. I once again enjoyed being on the other side of the podcast last week, listening to the intricate detail of the iPods and the history there. That was really fascinating. So it was great to see some of your collection, some of Josh's collection there as well. So really enjoyable to be a listener last week. But apart from that, I've been down at the museum here trying to tend to a few little lingering projects that have sort of been hanging around a bit longer than they should have, trying to bundle up a box LC2 with all of its accessories and restore that back into the box as it would have come. I did some repair work on some slot loading optical drives for G3 iMac successfully. So that's, for those that don't know, you'll be lucky these days if you can put a CD or a DVD into your iMac G3, and if you're lucky for it to go in, you're probably going to find it's not going to come out. So it's some successful repairs on replacing the belts and the rollers in that, which was good. And
we'll have to get you to record a video about that, I reckon.
Look, I was watching. There was a couple of resources online which were very helpful in providing some guidance, but some of the finer detail was just sort of feeling through, and it's so satisfying when you put it all back together and see it just slot in nicely, take it in, and then spit it out. Was delightful. So look, apart from that, JD, it's repair stuff, getting ready for the opening this weekend, this Saturday, which
it's come around quick. Yeah,
it has. So that's been about me, JD. So what about for you? What's been happening?
Yeah, a bit of a quiet week for me. So putting lots of photos on the Macdownunder website of some of the bits and pieces as they've arrived, some extra keyboards, some extra external drives, and today's topic, lots of speakers. And so, preparing for this week's episode was probably the major focus, because I really didn't have any photos of the speaker collection that were worthwhile. So it's a lot better now. So anyway, on to this week's episode in that case.
Yes.
So we're going to focus on external speakers in particular, but I thought, along the way we'll probably talk about other sort of major things in the speaker space, just to put things into context. And I guess, kicking off with the Apple One is probably the first thing that's not actually external speaker related, because the Apple One didn't have a speaker at all. And I'm not even sure that there was an expansion card that allowed sound. I haven't seen one from a quick search. There was certainly an audio interface for cassette data, and I'm sure people could have used that if they wished to generate sound, but it was pretty much for recording data, the bips and bops and so forth, into the data stream on a cassette. So there's the first outsider. And then the second one, of course, is the Apple II, which came with an internal speaker, but as far as I'm aware, it was really only intended for alert beeps and reset beeps and so forth. But some really smart people worked out, and it's only got a single address in code as well. So all you can really do is send a turn on, turn off to that address, and it'll make a click. And some really smart people, as everyone probably knows now, worked out that if you poll that quick enough, you can change the sound wave that it generates. And so you can get sort of music, out of it, but it's very early 1970s electronic music and monophonic and only one tone at a time, all that sort of stuff. But it did have sound. The Apple IIgs, a lot of people know, the S was for sound and had the an sonic sound chip that was capable of stereo sound and polyphonics and all sorts of wonderful things, but they only included a single speaker inside and, in fact, no stereo port. So you needed to get an add-on card or a breakout board to generate stereo. Apple didn't provide any of that. They were all third-party things. And I guess that gets us to the first external speaker, which I believe Apple were involved in marketing, but it was actually the Bose roommate speakers. And there were the Apple versions, and they're still available. In fact, we've got one in the for sale section. I've had to get it from the US, but don't say that too loud. Can't get them easily in Australia. But yeah, so Bose made an Apple edition, and from what I can tell, there might have been up to 3 versions. Some of the collectors out there will know this. There were those that had the Bose in the dark box, like on the screen now, but instead of mine here with the stripes, it actually had the Apple coloured logo, and they're quite heavily sought after and fetch fairly large sums of money. So they're out there. The second version, like the ones I've got on the screen here, don't have the Apple logo, but they have the Apple colours in stripes. And the suggestion is that, and we'll talk more about this probably later, that because of all the legal issues that Apple Computer had with Apple Music, the Beatles label, because it was a speaker and it was audio related, Bose had to take the Apple off it and just have it as, well, it's a coloured stripy logo, to get around the legal issues that Apple Computer was having. And in my collection, and you can't quite make it out, I don't think, on this particular screen because the photo's not large enough, but in my collection, I've actually got one of the speakers, in fact, it's the one on the left in the photo, that has the stripies rather than the Apple logo, without the epoxy sort of shiny coating on it. It's just matte, and most of them have that epoxy. And the right-hand speaker in this photo has the epoxy on it. So I don't know if you can quite make that out. Now, as we were chatting off air, I'm not sure whether that means the epoxy just fell off the one that I've got, or whether in fact it was actually a third version altogether. I would have thought if the epoxy fell off, it would have taken some of the paint, but it's remarkably clean on the logo. So anyway, so there you go. So there's the first set of Apple-related speakers, at least.
Quite heavy, I think you said, JD, as well, just off camera before when you were.
I've actually got. Up. Yeah, I'll just change it. I'll just change the configuration. I do have one of them with me, and it's extremely heavy. If you've ever felt one of these Bose roommates. So it's got the Bose amplifier in it. It's got the fairly heavy magnet speakers in there, as well as, you can see the inputs, outputs, and power and so forth. So this was imported from the States. And
often I was going to say a very layman's indication that speakers might be good quality is the weight that they've got in them, right?
Yeah. Well, so, if that's anything to judge it by, this is a fantastic speaker. And I won't take the front off on camera, but certainly the cones are intact and the seals are intact, which is great, because a lot of the speakers we're talking about, in fact, that's the big issue, is the cones or the rubber surrounds on the cones are deteriorating. But these ones are in really good shape. So the Bose speakers, and they were largely out to promote the Ensoniq chip in the Apple IIgs, so they're very much paired with the Apple II. But you can use them with anything. They're a standard speaker, so there's nothing overly special about them. Yeah, so that was the first speaker in the group. And before we get on to some of the others, it's probably just worth talking about those legal issues. And I'm sure you've got some context from your reading as well, Matt. But from the beginning, the Mac was designed to have sound, whereas the Apple I didn't, and the Apple II, not until the GS was it really getting decent sound. But the Mac absolutely was. So much so that there were the legal issues between Apple and Apple Music, or Apple Computer and Apple Music. And then that leads to the legendary So Sue Me alert sound that Jim Reeks designed. Because of the issues that Apple had, the Apple legal department wanted to know everything about music and sound and anything that might push the buttons of Apple Music. And so Jim Reeks apparently did all of the sound development for the Macintosh. And so he designed this alert sound, and he really wanted to push the buttons, and he wanted to call it Let It Beep. in direct contrast to the Beatles song. And someone told him there's just no way that's going to get through. And so his response was, So Sue Me. And as people will be aware, if you're into this space, it's spelt SOSOMI. And the legend goes that Jim applied to the legal department on paper and made sure that no one said it out aloud, so that the link to the joke, So Sue Me, wasn't apparent. And it got through the legal department, and it's only recently, I believe, I think 2022, where they stopped using So Sue Me as one of the alert sounds in the Mac operating system. They got a replacement, and I can't quite recall what it's called. There is a replacement for it now, but it's not So Sue Me anymore, which is a bit sad.
It is, and it's an iconic Apple Mac sound, you have to say. So that's when people hear it, they usually associate it with a computer alert sound. But yeah, it doesn't take too much knowledge of computers to know that it's actually an Apple related sound as well. So it's I actually put the original one back onto my modern Mac when they removed it. So I thought I can't do without it, so I put it back on.
Very good.
Yes.
And whilst we're talking about Jim, so in doing the reading and research for today, I saw his story about the Mac startup chime as well. So not the original one, because that was just a beep. That was an alert beep on the Mac 128K. But once they got into sort of polyphonic sound, and we know that chime that the Macs have, and there's various versions of it in the various models. What I didn't realise is that Jim's inspiration for that was the final chord in the Beatles' A Day in the Life. And if you go, I'll put the link down in the description. But on Jim's webpage, he's actually got a link to that chord from A Day in the Life. And when you play it alongside the startup chime, you can absolutely see the influence.
That's cool. I wasn't aware of that. Good on you, Jim. I'm glad you were cheeky enough to slip these things in. That's very good.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. And it's lovely, working out and finding out about these little stories, the little Easter eggs in the development stories.
That's it.
So it wasn't until the Mac 2SI, which I should have known because I actually had a Mac 2SI, that Mac supported stereo sound out of the box, so to speak. You could add it into earlier machines, but that would be a third-party card in most cases. So 1993, which a couple of years after the 2SI came out, the Quadra 840 and the Centra 660 AVs came out, the Audio Vision 14, stereo speakers, bass reflex, and an active equalizer. So what a! And I know you've got a couple of these in the museum, and I owned one and used one in the day, and they are a fantastic monitor.
Yes, the ones I've got here still sound pretty good actually as well. So I'd always wanted one, looking at another one of those catalog items that I'd seen on top of a 6100 Power Mac, and thought, man, I'd love to have one of those one day. So I was delighted when I was able to pick one up and plug it into my 6100 and listen to it. It was great.
And of course it had inbuilt microphones and all sorts of other things too. So Apple's really went all in sound in 1993, including its next set of speakers that actually came directly from Apple. which is the Apple Design powered speakers. And I think we've talked about this group a few times along the way, but the Apple Industrial Design Group had their Mac-like Things division, and they only made 3 things: these speakers, the Power CD we'll talk about in a moment, and then the next version of the same speakers, and that was it. That's all they did. So short-lived group. So these are the Apple Design powered speakers, 1993, 5 watts of power per channel, but they were right in your face usually, so the power didn't matter a great amount. And certainly had a full range, so it had a tweeter, so the high pitch, mid-range, and a bass vent as well. So good sounding speakers for their time.
Very nice.
So Apple followed up in 1994 with the Apple Design Speakers 2. Now, I've got a pair. In fact, I've got the other ones as well. Extremely light. And going back to your comparison or your thoughts around weight equals quality, these were actually pretty well known to not be the same standard as the earlier design speakers, which bit of a shame. But they're certainly smaller, they're much lighter, and a slightly flimsier construction. Interesting construction though, because they had this sliding stand so you could adjust the height. I daren't do that now because the plastics from the mid-90s, not well known for surviving. And as I mentioned, they also the Mac-like groups also made the Power CD, which we'll talk about on another episode, I'm sure. But they released a dark version of the powered speakers too as well. So quite a departure with the silver Apple logo too for 1994. So very
ahead of the time.
Yeah, foreshadowing what was coming in a few years. So exactly the same speakers, just a different coloured plastic and grille. Obviously the logo's changed to silver, but designed to match the Power CD. Also the PowerBook range, but as we've spoken about a few times, perfect design for the Macintosh TV.
Yes, absolutely.
So Matt, have you got any of the Apple Design speakers in the museum?
I don't. No, I'd love to have a couple of sets set up, particularly the first version of the Apple, the powered speakers. I think they would be really cool. Again, something else I looked in the catalogue and thought, they're pretty nifty. I wouldn't mind a set of those alongside my LC 475 back in the day. But having a look at our for sale section, not to give anything away, JD, but there are a couple of tempting things in there. Let me just say that.
There are a few, and yeah, well, won't give too much away, but we'll talk about it later on. But I was surprised, the stars aligned with the Apple speakers that are available in Australia just at the moment. All right, we will continue on for a bit then. So that was 1994. And from 1995, the Apple displays, Apple Vision 17 and 20-inch screens, had stereo speakers and a whole range of other things. In 1996, the PowerMac 6400, sort of a bit of a sleeper, I think, in the new InstaTower case, featured an integrated subwoofer and other internal speakers. And if you plugged in external speakers, it gave you SRS surround and allowed the subwoofer to function as part of that. Really quite amazing. And including a cutover controller on the back of the computer. And of course the 6500 was the upgrade from that. And so that's where we move on to the next part of the story, because from the 6500, Apple partnered with Bose for the creation of the 20th anniversary Macintosh. And so, as I think we might have talked about before, it had a Bose surround sound system in it, the speakers down the side of the computer. But where it comes into external speakers is this lovely beast, which is the Bose subwoofer. That was technically an external speaker, so that's why I'm including it. And it's certainly a very interesting, definitely a very interesting Apple speaker to talk about. So this was part of the Bose Acoustimass speaker technology and formed not only the subwoofer, but it was also the power supply for the computer. And so the idea was, in fact, you put this lovely thing on the floor to get the best results for the subwoofer, and you'd never see it. In fact, you risk kicking it under the desk, which isn't terribly nice. Had 16 watts of output, and I've got to say, I'm in love with it. I just love the TAM and its sound when it's up and running. It's about the only demo I ever run on the TAM is the audio demos. I mean, they're tailored for the system, obviously, from Apple, yes, but they just sound amazing.
When you brought it into the museum, JD, yeah, it sounded superb. So I was very impressed with the output from it, and I can see why you demo it. It's a good sounding unit.
So that was 1996, and of course, after that, Steve returned. And
yes.
And with Steve's return, a whole lot of stuff got cancelled. But I guess, importantly, the iMac G3 came out. And whilst it doesn't have any external speakers, it's definitely worth talking about because Johnny Ives, who we know was one of the lead designers, certainly around the case creation and the industrial design, partnered with Harman Kardon to create the Odyssey speakers that were in the front bezel of the iMacs, and sadly these days need some repair mostly. So iconic in their own way, but not an external speaker, so certainly worth talking about. But I guess the important thing is that they decided to take the technology even further and added the iSub. Now this was a third-party add-on, so it was sold by Harman Kardon, but designed by Johnny Ive with Apple influence, so you could plug it into your iMac and have a subwoofer. So very much like the 20th anniversary Mac, so there's the connection, apart from the iMac connection, and gave you a subwoofer and increased the sound value and sound quality out of your iMac. So these are a 6-inch speaker and came out in 1999.
USB only, integrated, and no Apple logo on them. So I think to your point there, JD, third party, but in collaboration with Apple, I think you'd say.
Absolutely, and you can see it from the design when you look at it alongside the iMac, and we'll talk about some other speakers in a minute, but the influence is absolutely there. The following year, they added sound sticks. So if you didn't particularly like the sound of the Odyssey speakers out of your iMac, or you were trying to use this with some other product like a G3 Tower, for example, you could add the sound sticks. And I think there were multiple versions of the sound sticks, and I think they only stopped making them very recently. But again, as you said, USB in, and that would connect you to the iSub and your sound sticks. And this was mine, and I ran this until the power supply died just recently, in every Apple system since I bought it back in the early 2000s. And I've got to say, the sound out of these was just amazing.
Very popular. I often get asked about if I've got a set. I do have a set. They were generously donated. They need some work done because the little speakers have in the tower there, the little sticks have actually come away. So some repair work to be done before they back in service.
Also in 2000, the Mac G4 Cube came out and came out with these speakers. And again, you can see that they're a partnership between Johnny Ive and Harman Kardon. No surprises there because they look very much like an external version of the Odyssey speakers from the iMac G3. So these used that, you can see there the little amplifier. So these were specifically for the Cube and plugged into the little, in fact they're hardwired into the little amplifier that you've then plugged into your Cube. Now, to your point about rubber surrounds, you can see on the right-hand speaker there that this one's now perished. When I got them out to take these photos this week, just before getting ready for this episode, I was elated that they were intact. And I did a little bit of cleaning on the silver dome and just touching it, and the rubber broke away.
Oh, no. Yep.
So they definitely wouldn't have survived being used, clearly. So there you go. So they might look intact, but they won't be. I can almost guarantee it. Which is a bit of a shame. But they were renowned as fantastic sounding speakers. They certainly did sound great in their day. I actually used the iSub instead, but marvellous speakers. And of course, Apple then followed up with the Apple Pro speakers in 2001, specifically for the G4 digital audio tower, with the special connector there that provided not only audio but also power. And essentially the same speakers, but the rubber surrounds, yes, they are white, not black. If you're, we'll talk about it in the for sale section, because you can get replacement surrounds, but generally not in white that I've been able to find so far.
These came in black and white, I recall.
Oh, did they?
Externally, yes, yeah. Originally black, I think, and then white with the iMac G4 when that came out.
For the G4
compatible.
iMac,
yeah. They were in the box for some of the iMac G4 models, high spec ones, I should say, and they were available separately.
Moving forward a couple of years, so this was 2001, and obviously these speakers were around for quite a while with the digital audio and the iMac G4. But of course, last week we spoke about the iPod, and we actually touched on this speaker as well, and that's the iPod Hi-Fi. Now, I know you use one of these pretty regularly down in the museum, don't you?
Yeah, I was enjoying music from it. I was pumping out into the museum space, not too long ago, and it was all in very good order, sounds beautifully. And I can remember at the reseller that I worked at the time as well, we when the iPod Hi-Fi came out. Previously, the Bose sound dock was a incredibly popular accessory for your iPod. It had the dock in the front, so you could put your iPod in. We retired the Bose sound dock and replaced it with an iPod Hi-Fi, which has the dock at the top for the iPod with the 30-pin dock connector, and it filled the large showroom beautifully. So it was a really nice unit.
And that was Steve's selling point for this, wasn't it? That it was towing that sort of political commercial line of not that there's anything wrong with what's out in the market at the moment, but we don't think it's good enough. And he decided that this was the only hi-fi speaker you would ever need.
A very nice unit. You've got your photo there, JD, with the grill off, which snapped off quite easy.
I can tell you because mine did literally snap off when I took the photo.
Oh no! Okay.
So they're rubber pressure connectors, and they're on a little stem, and the stem snap. So be careful. Be very careful when you're removing them, because it's early 2000s plastic. So two of mine survived, the other two didn't, but I think they're repairable. So.
But yeah, hopefully. And I know, as Josh mentioned last week as well, commented on the fact that you could put batteries into it, so it could be taken around as a boombox sort of style unit, and the auxiliary input in the back as well.
So that was 2006, and then Apple went back to including speakers in their screens, and so the 2008, the LED cinema display included speakers. And then that was followed by the Thunderbolt displays in 2011. They also had speakers. They skipped them for a while, and the XDR Pro Monitor didn't have speakers, but they're back in the 2022 studio displays, and I think there's a brand new studio display being announced at the moment that has stereo speakers as well. So no external speakers during that period, but in other areas of the Apple organisation, they decided that HomePod would be a great idea. And again, I think the idea was that HomePod would be the only speaker you would need in your house or business.
Yes.
So we're sort of breaking the rules a little bit, because this was actually 2017 and released in 2018, so it's probably not really retro. Nevertheless, if we're talking external speakers, it's be remiss not to talk about them.
That's it. So that's where we are today with the HomePod, the larger version.
And so they are old enough that they're starting to fail, though. So with this particular one, it's not so much the speakers, it's the power supply. And there's a diode deep down in the base of these speakers that blow. And so if you've got an original HomePod that doesn't start up, chances are almost 99% that this diode has blown. It's a 20-cent part, not even that. Hard to fix because you've got to disassemble the entire speaker. And I've read up about how to do it. I just haven't got around to doing it to the couple that I've got that have blown. And I'll put links in the description of some of the research I've done on that if you want to have a look. And the other issue is their firmware can falter. And so if you find that you've got the volume up and down, so the plus and minus signs flashing at you, it's a good indication that the firmware has failed. And you can actually re-flash these. But again, it's not for the faint heart. You've got to pull off the rubber seal at the bottom. You've got to 3D print your own adapter, because it's not just a USB-C connector, it's a special multi-pinned adapter. And then there's third-party software you can add to your iMac to re-flash these. Probably breaking every warranty in Apple's world, but you can get them working again, and I've done that myself at home. So the HomePod is out and about, and I think there's a new version on the horizon. And of course there's the HomePod Mini. It came out in 2020, so it's a pretty new machine, but remarkable foresight that they actually had temperature sensors and all sorts of other sensors and matter connectivity already built into the thing in 2020. And as the technologies emerged and the software got better, they then enabled them all. So that's the HomePod Mini. And of course I think there's a HomePod Mini 2 on the horizon as well. Do you use HomePods at home? I've got quite a few around my house.
Yeah, we've got a couple. We gave them as Christmas gifts to each of the kids last year, I think it was, or maybe even the year before. So we could also double as an intercom, which helps round them up at dinner time. And instead of the HomePods in a stereo pair in our front entertainment room, which is superb sound out of those as well.
So, do you have a favourite Apple speaker? What did you like about it? Was it its sound? Some of them probably not. Or was it its design? Let us know down in the comments. And also, if you've got any thoughts about what you'd like us to talk about in future episodes, please let us know down in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, on to recent news. And we've got a couple of things that we've both found this week. So one of the things I found was this post on the 68K Macintosh Liberation Army. There's a post here from Zigzag Joe of the Motorola 68060 finally working inside a classic Mac. I think for decades we've been wanting one of these, I certainly have, to get the extra speed and power of the 060 processor. But as far as we're all aware, this is the first time it's actually worked. Now, there is some limitations. It will only work in a Quadra 650, and you do need to have a special ROM flashed, and you also need to have an adapter to go from the 68060 package, the chip package, to the wider 68040 slot. So there's a fair bit of work to do. And in the thread at the moment it says that they have no plans to make it work with any other machine now that they've done this one. But what a fantastic innovation. So I'll put links to this down in the description. As you can see, there's videos and description, all sorts of other things that are linked into this particular thread.
This is one that I stumbled across, JD. This was a retro-inspired video that a gentleman by the name of Nick Corporal has put together. And I just found this such a sweet video. It tells the story of, I guess, a guy and his computer and the friendship that they build. And the connection back here with the vintage Mac scene is that it is heavily inspired by the Apple stuff from the mid '80s and late '80s. So the computer itself, Sal, looks like a compact Mac with a sort of a combination of a compact Mac and portrait display. But there's other extensions there, such as the inspiration on the packaging and the Apple Store experience and servicing experience, and again, just a really nostalgic and beautifully put together video. So I absolutely recommend checking it out. It only goes for 7 or 8 minutes, but a really nice creation from someone who's a vintage Mac enthusiast and an animator as well. So well done, Nick. Great video.
Yeah, fantastic video. I loved it when I saw it.
And another one that I came across this week was from Ron's Computer Videos, has done an interview with a local Melbourne chap by the name of Richard Moss. And Richard has written a book called The Secret History of Mac Gaming. And I'm about halfway through my copy. It was given to me as a gift by my wife a couple of months ago. And the interview that Ron has with Richard is, I found really interesting. So worth checking out if you want to hear a bit about the book and Richard's story behind writing it. And of course, there's a lot of stories and anecdotes in there that he shares from the book as well. So worth reading the book and worth checking out the interview. Ron did a great job there, and very nice of Richard to give up his time to chat.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm not particularly into Mac games, but I think the history is really interesting, particularly going from the commercial era to the sort of shareware era as well, which I think is a feature of the interview. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, there is, and just to reading the book, there's also a lot of story about the the business side of there are stories in there about the business side of Apple in the late 80s and just some of the evangelist, which we initiatives there to try and get the Mac into the hands of gamers as well. So I haven't got up to the Pippin part yet, but that will be there. So I might be able to make sure I read that before we do our Pippin section.
The Pippin episode, absolutely.
Pippin episode, you can that's right, yes. But no, worth checking out.
Right, coming events. So on the 6th of December, we've got the Retro Gaming Bendigo group. We're just talking about the Pippin, so I've probably got no excuse. I might have to get to the 6th of December with some Pippins.
Yes.
In St Killian's Hall in Bendigo, 12:30 for a 1 o'clock start. Technology Markets have advertised a couple of dates, but the important one is Sunday the 23rd of November at the Darebin Community Sports Stadium in Reservoir. From 10 o'clock, not only is there the Technology Market, but there's also a vintage computer collection show, which I haven't heard any details about yet. Still waiting to see the advert for traders and so forth. But I'm quite sure that I will try to get there. Matt, what are your thoughts? Are you likely to get there?
Not for that one, no. I'm committed on that day, but I'll hopefully make the next Keysborough one, whenever that may be.
So other future dates, the 14th of December at Keysborough, the 21st of December at Reservoir, but the Vintage Computer Show is the 23rd of November at Reservoir. WasFest 42. Still on the website, advertised for the 22nd of November, again in a private house, so have a look at the link down in the description if you're interested in going along and chatting all things Apple II. Chat to the organisers to get the details. As I mentioned last week, there's an international meeting that we're spruiking because you can join it online, and it's the Global Newton Users Meeting number 17 on the 15th of November. From 5 o'clock UTC. You'd need to check your local calendars to see what that actually means in Australian time zones, and I'll put a link to the meeting down in the description if you're interested. So also on the 15th of November, but at a much easier time to remember, 10 o'clock till 4, is the Mac Museum. Matt, what can we look forward to this month?
Yeah, so there's the Mac OS X exhibit is still on display here at Mac Museum to get down and check out. I've got a few machines which are ready for sale, including a couple of those iMac G3s I mentioned earlier in the episode, so which have been nicely restored and will be at reasonable prices. I'm still firming up on that, but of course, catch the regulars that are down here. JD, I know you'll be here, which is great. I'll be here. There's a couple of others that I think will make it down, so happy to have a chat and check out the stuff on display, get hands-on with some of the early Apple equipment down here to check out, and I think the weather's going to be pleasant as well, which is good, which is a change for recent days here in Melbourne. So good excuse to come down to Somerville. Look forward to catching you down here from 10 till 4 on Saturday.
Good weather for a drive down the peninsula, absolutely, and looking forward to it. Do you have any strawberry slot load iMacs that you're going to sell? I'm still looking for one.
No strawberry slot load, unfortunately. I think I've got a strawberry tray load that might be coming up for sale soon. So, yeah, but no, sorry, JD. Strawberry slot load still evades you by the sound.
Miss out again. But looking forward to this coming Saturday at the Mac Museum. On Friday, the 14th of November, we've got the Adelaide Retro Computing meeting, their regular meeting in the Unley Community Centre. So have a look at the link down in the description if you're interested in that. And they've also told us about their upcoming Retro Computer Swap Meet, which is actually on the 29th of November, 10 until 2, also in the Unley Community Centre. Okay, time for the for sale section, which we've spoken a bit about, and for good reason. I think that if you're interested in Apple speakers, there's some really good deals out just at the moment, which not normally around, I don't think. And again, I've tried to squeeze it into the less than $100 category. I failed in a couple of cases, and I've tried to, as I normally do, keep it to Australian only, but there are a couple of ring-ins, but you'll hopefully forgive me when you see what they are.
I think that speaks to the how desirable some of these speakers are as well, JD. The fact that I've had to push above the $100.
Yeah. So first up, we've got the old school Apple computer speakers for just on $100. And in reality, these are the Apple design power speakers version 1 that you're after, in fact, Matt. $100 for New South Wales.
That's it. I'll give our listeners a chance to snag them, but if they're still around and maybe by the end of the weekend, I might have to see if I can talk with this person about sending them down to Melbourne.
Next up, we've got the Apple Hi-Fi speakers for $80 in the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. Now, in fact, Queensland, I noticed when I was looking, have several of these for sale. One for astronomical prices, but some also not too far off this $80 mark. This was the cheapest one I found anywhere in Australia in my look this week. So for $80, if you're up after one of the Apple Hi-Fi speakers, what a fantastic bargain.
Very reasonable. That's a great pickup.
Next up, I found the iSub with sound sticks. So these ones are in South Australia. Again, just on the $100, but definitely worth it if they're working, and it says they are. They are fantastic speakers. Next up, friend of the show over in WA is selling an amazing part of his collection. There are a couple of caveats. So he's got the power CD that we were talking about earlier, matched with Apple design powered speakers 2 in black. So the perfect pairing. Now, unfortunately, the power CD isn't working 100%. It does power on, but isn't spinning the disc. So be aware of that. But it's in the description. And this package is currently, buy it now, at $350. So over my $100 limit, but given what you're getting in the package, that's a pretty good deal, I think.
Very good.
Now, next up, this is from the US, but I thought I have been watching these sorts of speakers for quite a while online. And so if you are an Apple IIgs enthusiast, these are the speakers to match with your Apple IIgs. So these are the Bose roommate powered speakers with the Apple stripes. It isn't the Apple logo, even though it says that it is. It's just the striped logo, or stripes in Apple colours. Not cheap, so $504 approximately in Australian dollars, and then you've got to pay shipping as well, which I think is about $170 when I checked. But if you're interested in these speakers, they are available. But if you put out an eBay search, as I've been doing, every once in a while you'll find a cheap set come through, and that's how I've got mine. And lastly, not even an auction, and not in Australia either. However, I'll put a link in the description. There is an online how-to on replacing the foam surrounds on your Apple Pro speakers or your Cube speakers, and it links to this site from Holland that sell the correct surround. For just under €7, you can get your foam surrounds.
I should buy a couple of those, I think. So
I think we all need a few of those. Yep.
I've got a gift voucher for my birthday that was given to me. That's where I could send some of that funding.
Well, that's the end of episode 22, the Speakers Wired for Sound episode. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed that. Again, if you've got a favourite Apple speaker, let us know. And let us know what you like about it. Is it the shape? Is it the colour? Is it the sound? Is it all of those? Is it the fact that it pairs with another one in the case of the HomePods? Or it matches the aesthetic in the case of the iMac or iMac G3 or iMac G4? Let us know. Matt, any final thoughts on Apple speakers?
Wow, I think it's great to see how far we've come for something that we probably just take for granted these days, that you can have a computer and spitting out sound. From the early Apple One, like you said, JD, not capable really. Then we, have sort of travelled through the history there and got some of the backstory as well, which is also very, very fascinating. So yeah, we've come a long way, and it's nice to know what pairs with what and what the matchings were there, but always educational. JD, listening to this research that we've done, so very very enjoyable. What about you?
Yeah, I think for me it's the tips on the repairs. So there's some stuff out there. Other people have done this before, particularly with the current HomePods. There's some notable repairs there for relatively new equipment too. And then, as we've just had in the for sale section, you can still get parts for the Apple Pro speakers and the Cube speakers, which is great. And I guess the other thing is, it was just interesting to see that Apple paired with Bose and designed a whole range of speakers with Bose, and then came back to them at some point as well. And also Harman Kardon and the speakers that Johnny Ive and they designed both for the iMac G3, but then also for the Cube. And for the digital audio G4 Tower. So just, great to see Apple pairing with, masters of the particular industry, in this case speakers, so that we get a fantastic product. That's it.
No, it is some very, very desirable items there, as we said, JD.
Absolutely. So we appreciate any comments. So if you've enjoyed the episode, let us know. If you've got some thoughts about future episodes, please let us know. We've got a long list already, but there's always new things out there. So please let us know. So we'll be back again next week. So don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out. But until next episode, and we see you then, please take care and see you soon.
See you later.
Thank you for joining the Macdownunder Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.